She asked me this question like, what should she as a lady do in choosing a spouse when there are a lot of unserious men out there? And by the time I was not reviewing the question, I discovered something that many men also believe that there are a lot of unserious women out there. What that means is that we have people who have different expectations of marriage. So it means what many men are expecting of marriage and they are expecting from marriage is not what women want to offer. And what women are expecting from marriage is not what many of these men want to offer. So you hear people say he's unserious or she's unserious. The reality is that maybe we have unnecessary expectation of each other. Maybe we have a necessary expectation of the other person in marriage. Sometimes we think that, oh, it is this person's responsibility to do this, is this person's responsibility to do that, is this person's responsibility to do this and that. Like we place our happiness, the responsibility of our happiness on the other part, on the other person, on our partner. And these people are saying, come on, that particular requirement and that particular thing you're expecting of me should not be on me. Right. And that's what we're seeing right now is that what women are expecting is different from what men are expecting. So when the two of them come together, you find it two people who are unserious. Or rather, one person thinks that the other person is unserious. We should also realize that in the world right now, people, marriage no longer appears to benefit the traditional man, right? And the traditional woman is expecting more from her marriage. So the traditional woman, the woman, the average woman out there right now is expecting more from the husband and from the marriage that she may have even expected from her parents, right? She's expecting more from this man. And these men are not like, what do we have stands to gain? If we give all of this, what do we stand to gain? The simple answer is a quote. I cannot remember the person who said it right now, but it's not my quote. It says, God, he said, marriage is God's assault on selfishness. Right? Marriage is God's assault on selfishness. So if you go into marriage and you want to have a great marriage, you must actually ask yourself, what am I bringing to the table for the benefit of my spouse, for the benefit of my partner? If we come to the table with that mindset and ask ourselves, what am I willing to give up? I'm not telling you you should trade your values. I'm not telling you you should trade your life. But I'm saying, if marriage is supposed to be a win-win situation, then it is very important you ask yourself, what am I bringing into this marriage for the benefit of my spouse? And what am I willing to forego, to trade, to barter, to give up to be able to achieve that? Like we have to have people who are coming together to say, what is actually the purpose of marriage? Aside being a counseling psychologist, I am also a family and divorce lawyer. So it means that usually, if I'm not in the office counseling people, I am in court trying to settle their matrimonial or family disputes or trying to resolve family issues. And one of them includes divorce, custody, and everything that pertains to that. And I see something again and again that the biggest issue is that as a community, as a people, we don't all have a common purpose of marriage, right? That's a big problem. So you'll see one person saying this is the purpose of marriage, and another person saying this is the purpose of marriage. Different purposes. Before now, our communities, our traditions, based our tribes actually dictated the purpose of marriage. So any person who was going to marriage already knew what their gender roles were, what their responsibilities were, what the expectations. And these expectations were not expectations that were placed by the partners, they were expectations placed by the community, placed by the tribe, placed by the local assembly. So I'm looking at like the church, placed by the religion. Like, okay, if you're a man and you say you want to marry a woman in Christendom, or for example in Catholicism, this is what is expected of you. This is what are your responsibilities, your duties, your obligations. This is how you're supposed to treat your wife. And we have that same guidelines. Unfortunately, today, we don't have that, right? Because everyone has become a rebel. We think it is freedom, but we can see where that freedom has brought us. Is the freedom actually bettering our marriages? So we don't have uh, by our tribes, and I'm talking about our tribes and villages, we can't actually say this is the purpose of marriage. So if we don't say this is the purpose of marriage, we can no longer define husband and wife, because the reality is that husband and wife are offices that people occupy. So if you occupy the office of a husband, it means there are responsibilities, duties, and obligations that are assigned to that particular office that you are supposed to carry out. It also means that there are rights, privileges, and perks of office that comes to that office that you are supposed to enjoy. Right. So our tribes, our churches, denominations set out the rules, the guidelines to say, okay, these are your rights, these are your obligations, these are your rights, these are your privileges. I know for several years, I wouldn't want to deny that for several years, women were subjugated in our tribes, and women were subjugated also in our religion. Interestingly, it was not so from the beginning. If you see many of those laws and rules that appear to subjugate women, they were not designed to subjugate women from the beginning. They were actually designed to protect women for the best interest of women. But over time, they outlived their purpose. And by the time they outlived their purpose and they outlived their communal benefits, people refuse to evolve, people refuse to change them, people refuse to modify them. And so it now became something crazy, right? It turned into subjugation. Now, when you notice some of those subjugation, you will realize that it happens from the misinterpretation, the wrongful interpretation of scriptures, of what the Bible says, and not just only what the Bible says, what the Bible intended. So the cure, the problem the Bible wanted to cure, the remedy the Bible wanted to provide, the whole idea of what that particular admonition was trying to create. People have not focused on that. So yes, that existed. But today, in marriages, what we're having is everybody wanting their rights and privileges, but not wanting their obligations, duties, and responsibilities. So we are all today pursuing rights, privileges, and saying, me, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to enjoy that, he's supposed to do this, she's supposed to do that. We are just so concerned about our rights and privileges that we forget that rights and privileges and perks of offices only accrue to you, only comes to you when you perform the duties, the obligations. So let me ask you first of all, before you say men are serious or before you say women are serious, who is the husband? What are his duties, his rights, his obligations, his privileges? Who is the wife? What are her roles, duties, obligations, her rights, and her privileges? So you have to know the duties, the roles, the obligations, and you also have to pay attention to the privileges, the rights, and the perks of office. You cannot just only focus on this and ignore that. It will not work. You will not create something amazing. So you have to think of this and think of that. Then, By the time you are not looking at your relationship and your marriage, you ask yourself, these duties, rights, obligations, responsibilities, privileges, do they apply to the uniqueness of our marriage? So that's where you sit down and you say, let us see how we can apply them. Right now, I don't know what you should expect from your husband, and I don't know what you should expect from your wife. I may not be of the same tribe with you, I may not be of the same denomination with you, so I cannot tell. And that's the problem right now. But there's something I would tell you, and this has been my counsel over the years as a counselor, is that if you just stick to the Bible, I mean, if we use the Bible, what happens when we use the Bible is that all of us, we have one ground up. So all of us, we have one particular constitution, we have one particular terms of engagement, we have one particular agreement to say we are going to use this book. So when we say go by the book, we are not just talking about every other book out there. We are saying this book, particularly this book. So what does this book expect of me as a husband? What does this book expect of me as a wife? If I take it into consideration, will I say all the young men out there are unserious? If I take it into consideration, will I say all the young women out there are unserious? If I actually put into play what the Bible teaches, will I come up and say that what my wife is expecting of me is unreasonable, it is wrong, it is out of place? Will I be able to see that? As a wife, will I also be able to see that? In Nigeria, we don't actually have law that dictates how a husband or wife should perform in their marriage, or what their duties, their roles, and expectations should be. We have several tribes, tongues, and languages, and we also have several religions. So there's no one black and white rule or yardstick that I can just pull out and say, hey, if you guys use this, it will work, apart from this. Even if you're not a Christian, you decide not to use the Bible, and you say, okay, the two of us, we are going to apply our Yoruba culture and tradition to our marriage. If the two of you actually agree to it, it will work. If you are Muslims and you decide to say we are going to apply Quran, it will work. Right? It will actually work, because the when God was giving the principle of marriage, there were no religions as it were. He did not give those principles based on religion. He gave those principles based on human relationship. Based on human relationship. So human relationship, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of religion, irrespective of race. That is why your marriage will work. No matter your tribe, no matter your religion, if you just apply. If you just apply, it's not considering, yes, it has to be also culturally balanced, right? Culturally balanced. You have to ensure that it is culturally balanced, locally applicable. But then, if you just follow what God says, your marriage will work. My name is El and I'm alright. Thank you for following this episode tonight. I will request that you share this with your friends so that they learn the same things that you are learning. You rock.